Hello, and welcome to Wright Virtual Visits. I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I hope that you were able to find us here. I'm Anna Kaplan, Executive Director of Graycliff, coming to you live from Western New York, and I'll be your host today as we travel virtually to the West Coast and visit the Hollyhock House in the East Hollywood neighborhood of LA. Hollyhock House was one of the group of Wright sites that we featured in our July episode, as it is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The property, of course, was designed by Lloyd Wright and dates to the early 1920s. Let me start by thanking my colleague in the 2023 edition of this program, Eric Rogers of the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy. As always, though we cannot see his face, know that Eric is working behind the scenes to ensure this episode runs smoothly. He's also monitoring Facebook and making sure we're attentive to your questions. So please don't be shy. Add any questions, comments into that Facebook thread, and Eric will be sure to catch those and incorporate them in today's program. Also, a huge thank you to Forever Ready Productions. Today we have Scott Reedy facilitating our show. We are very grateful for the continued support of Forever Ready, which allows us to have a polished program for you, something we definitely would not be able to do on our own. Let's pause now briefly to play a short video about their production firm and the services they offer.
You know that feeling you get when something inspires you?
The kind of feeling that inspires you to act?
That's where we come in.
We tell mission-focused stories tailored to your goals.
Our collaborative, efficient, and service-oriented creativity simplifies all your video needs. Relationships, not clients.
Stories, not content.
Forever Ready Productions.
Thanks again to Scott and Allison and the whole Forever Ready team. So today we will be hearing from Hollyhock House's curator, Abby Chamberlain-Brock. We've had a bit of a restoration theme organically pop up over these last couple episodes, and Abby is going to be continuing in that vein, giving us a glimpse into restoration projects that she's been involved with, both large and small. Where's Abby? There she is.
I was so inspired by your wonderful Wright World or virtual visit about your restoration. So thrilled to carry the theme forward with our work here.
Thank you so much. We're excited to hear about what you've been dealing with over there, and really grateful that you're joining us again on Wright Virtual Visits, because you've definitely been a repeat collaborator, and we so appreciate that. So I'll pass it over to you and let you take it from here, Abby.
Okay, thanks, Anna. So I'm thrilled the house reopened in just last year after our extended COVID closure, but we've had visitors back here at Hollyhock House for a year, but that doesn't mean that things hadn't been moving forward with exciting restoration projects that we've been undertaking here. Hollyhock House is Wright's first Los Angeles project. Aline Barnstall, oil heiress, met Frank Lloyd Wright in Chicago in 1915 and approached him about not just building a house for herself, but a theater complex. That was the original commission. And when she found this property, a 36-acre hilltop site in East Hollywood, really fairly far outside of the downtown area, an area that hadn't been developed, the the site inspired both Barnstall and Wright to think boldly about what could be built here in Los Angeles. And I think the creative potential really spoke to them both. So while Hollyhock House has been reopened for tours since a major restoration was completed in 2015, we're excited to be working on a restoration of our guest house, Residence A. And I wanted to highlight that major restoration and also talk a bit about smaller projects that we've undertaken here at Hollyhock House. I mean, the really transformative work that we completed in 2015 had allowed us to restore the house to its original period of 1921 to 27 when Barnstall lived here at the house. And so these smaller projects are really exciting so that we can add additional layers to our interpretation of the site. Restoration of Residence A started in 2017, thanks to really critical support from our city council, from our partners at Project Restore, which have been essential to the work that we've done in restoration of Hollyhock House as well, and City's Bureau of Engineering, City General Services, and then the Department of Cultural Affairs, of which Hollyhock House and the operations of our historic sites are handled. So I wanted to start out by sharing a wonderful highlight video of one of the most critical structural transformations that happened with that project that we prepared at the end of 2021 when we finished phase 1 work. So Scott, if you wouldn't mind pulling that video up, and then we'll dive in from there. Thanks, Scott. It's really fun for me to look back on those videos and really get a sense of how much change has happened over time. And rather than walking us over to the house today, I wanted to highlight some wonderful photos of various stages of the work that Stan Eklund, one of our amazing docents here at Hollyhock House, has shot. So I wanted to jump over to some slides. And this one here is just to orient you to the site. It's really exciting for us to be preparing to bring 2 Wright sites, not just one, to the public here in Barnstall Park. When Aline Barnstall purchased this 36-acre property, she and Wright set to work on a really ambitious plan that included a proposal for a theater on our east facade of the east road frontage along Hollywood Boulevard. There were going to be artist studios and shops, a cinema, a structure called the Actors Abode, a director's house, along with Barnstall's residence, which sits at the crown of Olive Hill, Residence A, which is the smaller of two guest houses that were constructed, and Residence B. Here we have historical images of the three structures that were built. At the top is Residence A, and you can really see that dramatic north facade that we've been able to restore back. And thinking about this structure, the original entrance to the park was at that northeast corner. And so the way that this imposing facade of this structure would have read to visitors entering the park, it's really exciting to have finished the exterior restoration of that. And now we're working on the interior. Again, Hollyhock sitting at the crown of the hill. And then I have a red square signaling the location of where Residence B had been. And that building was retained by the family. It was had a lot more wood components and sadly fell into disrepair and was demolished in 1854. But to turn to the two structures that we do have that we're so excited to bring Residence A back online. Next slide. I think these photos well capture the transformation that this building has undergone. The first image in the upper left corner is of the building right at completion. Soon, in gifting this property to the city in 1927, this building was used for art classes. Barnstall wanted these spaces to be inhabited and used for art programming. And it's been a very different restoration journey with Residence A than Hollyhock House, in that it was a structure that took on a very utilitarian purpose. It was used for art classes. And so decisions and modifications were kind of layered on changes rather than a complete renovation or restoration as had happened at Hollyhock House, and trying to think about presenting it as a work of art. And so it's really wonderful to see this building again as a work of art as we're going through this process. So the balcony was failed early in the house's history. And I just want to, there's some wonderful correspondence between Barnstall and Rudolph Schindler, who served as construction manager on Hollyhock House and Residence A, worked on the plans for both of these structures. But stayed involved with the project even after Frank Lloyd Wright had left the project. So in April 1927, Schindler wrote to Barnstall regarding this balcony in particular. "I want to repeat that the balcony must be fixed before the exterior can be waterproofed. The steel beams were omitted originally on account of the expense. Water is now able to enter behind the balcony into the construction, and it's only a matter of short time until the wood will rot and the balcony will fall off altogether." Clearly that did happen, and a wood one with posts down to the ground replaced it. And it's transformative to see this, this really bold cantilevered balcony extending from the north facade once again. And I think that this structure, unlike Hollyhock House, really relates to the work that Wright did with his LA hillside homes, especially with this particular elevation. If we go to the next slide, the west facade of the building has a lot of continuity with the prairie style houses. It's a more solid volume, whereas Hollyhock kind of sprawls over the hilltop. This one really has a dense mass, and we've got some wonderful strong horizontal lines from bands of windows. And the house really opens up as you come around the west side of it. So kind of turning its back on the intended park roads. And those are the ones that are still intact here at Barnstall Park. This has been a city art park since 1927. And so looking at the historic photos and how Wright defined space is really magical to see those elements coming back. This site was a historic olive grove planted in the 1890s, and Wright integrated one of those olive trees, bringing that tree grid right up into the entrance of Hollyhock House. And it really serves as a pinch point and a point of compression in defining this house from the larger art park. So the cantilevered planter box there, it really signals that you're moving into a private space. And while Hollyhock House has a really dramatic, long enclosed entryway, that point of compression there, this is handled in a much different way. And we're excited to see this element come back. Next image. So now we're moving into the foyer of the house, and in the last couple months, we've been working tirelessly. Our plastering team has been working tirelessly to bring back all of the in-plaster colors for the house. This building had been painted out white. All of the art stone had been painted. So you really lost the textures and the different colors and the warmth of the tones that I think oftentimes modern interiors, you think of bright white, but these are earthy tones that I think both Wright and Rudolf Schindler, who worked, played a really critical role in the design of this structure, were involved with. So the art stone carries into this entryway. The ceiling holds low, like the overhang at the entrance. The cast stamped concrete floors from the entry patio just carry directly into this place, really blurring the indoors and outdoors. And then looking straight ahead here, you see the door into the living room. There's a few different points that take you, the door to the right of that, or the passageway goes down to the basement, down just a few steps. On the right is the entrance to the study with two benches flanking it. And then behind the camera here would be the servants' wing for the house. So there's a wonderful pinwheel effect to this structure, and choose your own adventures. It'll be interesting for us to be opening the space for public tours in the near future. So go into to the next image. So now we've come through that doorway into the living room. And I think what's really a wonderful design feature is that the ceiling, it holds low into that alcove that you come through, and we're looking directly onto the fireplace, which is being restored right now. And it would have had an inglenook bench that would have run alongside, extending out from the wall. And I think that would delay that sense of compression with the low roof before stepping directly kind of on center into this double height living room. And if you want to open the next image, there we go. We've got a view now looking back at that alcove with the entrance door there being on the right, and the house does this pinwheel effect, spirals around this center staircase. There's this center volume holds the chimneys for both the living room as well as a small chimney that kind of jogs from the study. And it kind of shoots you out in different directions into the house. But I think with this photo, you can really appreciate the ceilings coming back in this last year. The interior photos that we're going to see from Stan were shot just last year. I wish I had looped him in sooner on this, but you can really see the dramatic transformation that's happening quickly with this project. And one of the main things that the phase one work included was structural retrofit, where we added steel posts, custom profiles to minimize the impact as much on the interior, and those run along the east wall and the northeast corner. But between the doors, these really wonderful 5 doors and extended to windows up above, we went with steel plates so that we can minimize the profile as much as possible and so re-adding the wood trim would be as seamless as possible. So you can see that here, and I think it's wonderful to be able to look back at these photos, and because once we're completed with this project, all of these retrofit and all of the work that goes into it is hopefully invisible. So if you want to go to the next photo. So here's an image taken from up above in the dining room. And I think that this house has a lot of interesting features that can be largely just, that were largely dictated by the fact that it is a guest house. This dining room overlooks the living room, and it is kind of a smaller dining space. I guess it wasn't intended for your guests as a guest house to have large dinner parties at their house. You would, of course, go to the main house for dinners. But this space, you can see a really critical restoration that we undertook was restoring the original roof height, which that had been modified, I think, in that 1927 period when Schindler was reporting to Barnstall about roof leaks and failing balcony features. What was done here was the roof was raised above these clear stories, so that wonderful band of light that shines in and provides even light to this room was obscured. And so we worked hard to restore this very, very slight slope and restore this feature in the dining room. And if you want to shift to the other side, so this is now looking at the west side of the dining room, and another major project that happened in the space. And this room is going to be the first one that we get all of the wood trim back in. So it's moving, and actually even just this week, we've started applying the stain back to the wood finishes, the wax wood trim details. So it's moving quickly. But one of the main things that happened in phase 2 was tying this dining room bay back into the house when we started. And there had been some piecemeal repairs. And when we were pulling all of the packing material, that literally you could see light as this bay was falling away from the building. None of the project team even wanted to step into it. And so we added glulam beams and structural steel to tie this element back in. This bay would have been a niche that from it extends the dining room table with just seating for 6 here. So it's been a real transformation there. We're looking here now at the kitchen. This building was used as an art center, so additional storage was added as needed. And I think that the kitchen cabinets that we're seeing in the photo on the left were added but not appropriate for the 1921 original design. And so we're in the process here, as you can see, restoring back the plaster under the counters, the composite countertops, and moving through this space that has a really beautiful band of windows with planter box just outside, really framing that view of the Hollywood Hills. I wouldn't mind standing and doing dishes here. Next slide. And to show some photos of the bedrooms, this is what would be the primary bedroom. It has windows on 3 sides. This room was opened up and used as a weaving room. So there were 2 bedrooms in this general area that were opened to accommodate looms. And we've restored these rooms back, putting the partition walls back. And it's just recently gotten its coat of plaster. The image on the right is of our bathroom upstairs that I feel like has marks of Schindler all over it. It has a very interesting detail that it is open to the penthouse up above. It will would have allowed for airflow and really a wonderful spill of light from the clear story windows up above. And then next slide. So with this project, we have had to do some, there was forced air added to the structure. And what we have done is modify some of those systems to minimize their visual impact. And here is a case where you can see those clear story windows in the penthouse. And this is an advantage that most of our visitors won't get because none of the rails in this area are to code. But from this point, you can see we modified our HVAC unit to bring it into a lower profile and elongate it so that there could still be a large amount of light pouring into the hallway down below. And yeah, closing up these walls. And where possible, we reused lath and plaster, the traditional methods for ceilings. They did use wallboard, and when we needed to really hold to a tight profile. But you can see all these elements coming back together. And then the next image. And here's a view of that roof penthouse. And again, these roofs were raised about 1 foot or 1.5 feet. So the door here was cut, the art stone was damaged. And so this roof was really intended to be an outdoor living space. When you see Wright's renderings of it, there's plant material spilling over the roof. And so restoring that back, you really can better understand how this terrace with such a remarkable view was intended to be an outdoor living space fitting for California. What you can see also, we moved our buildings, or a lot of the structural systems up here. The HVAC was relocated from more visible locations down on the ground. We've added exterior lighting to this structure, which is really exciting. It is visible from the hilltop. And so we wanted, and has great views of the observatory just across. So we wanted to throw back some drama with our lighting on this particular element. And again, I'm so grateful to Stan, which you can see here in reflection here at the doors, for capturing this transformation here at Residence A. Next slide. So I guess shifting from that major restoration that we're doing at Residence A to some smaller ones that I think are really critical in enhancing how we interpret the main house directly. And these are two projects that we've undertaken recently, and actually the sconce that you see pictured in the left-hand side was just reinstalled this past Monday. So the other project was undertaken in 2021, was recreating the moat bridge around the fireplace. These are things that were original to the design and were removed in the 1940s. And I just wanted to share the next photo. So in the 1940s, the Hollyhock house had been used, gifted to the city in 27, used as a vibrant arts club, but through the Great Depression, we have notoriously leaky roofs here. And so the building had been condemned. It was an underfunded art club through the Great Depression. And so it was through the generosity of a woman named Dorothy Clune Murray that major renovations were done by Lloyd Wright, in concert with his father, Frank Lloyd Wright. So this is, of course, not how we do restoration today, but these are some of the really transformative kind of overhaul that had to happen in that 1940s period. Next slide. Go back one. There we go. Here's a view of the loggia in that period as well, where as a remedy to dealing with leaky roofs, some of the spaces were turned into outdoor ones. So we're seeing here a partition wall that was added actually directly over the sconce. You can see this sconce on both sides of the wall. Next slide. So beginning in 2010, a major restoration was undertaken in collaboration with Project Restore, Bureau of Engineering, GSE, and Department of Cultural Affairs here at the City of Los Angeles. And this has really focused on the public rooms of the house. And this loggia has really been kind of the center of a lot of water leak issues, as well as But by going through these restorations, it's really gotten us to a place where we can start thinking about smaller interventions now that we've undertaken such major ones, like rebuilding this loggia space. Next slide. So going back, this sconce that we were able to buy at auction this past December is a really exciting return home for us. It is a piece that Barnsdall turned to Rudolf Schindler, weary about the dim interiors here at Hollyhock House, asking him to install more lighting. So we think around 1925, Barnsdall made this request. She added 2 sconces here in the loggia that Schindler designed. There was some exterior lighting as well added at that point. And these are photos of what they originally look like. This image on the right is the last time we did see this sconce here at the house. Again, this wall was literally built around the sconce in place. Go to the next image. So in that 1940s period, when the house was being renovated by Frank Lloyd Wright's son Lloyd, this loggia space was turned into an outdoor porch with canvas roofs. And then in the 1970s, when Hollyhock House was being transformed into a house museum, he understood the importance of this interior space. Really, with it being an outdoor loggia, it really changed the flow, which you can appreciate with the strong axis running down the center of the house. So he reinstated it in the 70s, did so with large glass sliding doors, but apparently did not get this Schindler design sconce back in place. With the latest restoration in 2005, this sconce came up for auction, the one that we were just recently able to acquire. And I'm just thrilled that we were able to bring it back. But in 2005, they were able to at least take measurements of these sconces and have replicas made. If you want to switch to the next slide. So we're so excited to have an original one back, and we have a replica one alongside it. The original really is just a remarkable example of Schindler working within the vocabulary of Hollyhock House, appreciating that this house was intended to be a holistic design. We are incredibly grateful to Oculus Light Studios and Fisher Morant Stone for their support of this exciting acquisition, as well as Project Restore, who moved quickly to help us with the purchase at auction. Next slide. This sconce, of course, had a hard life, as you can see from some of the photos that I shared. And so it just came back from conservation. And I just wanted to share a few before and after shots. The fills for the finish nails all had popped. The wood was incredibly dry. And so this is some images of before and after. The nails had rusted, and the restoration work that was just completed thanks to Abby Ducker here based in LA. So next slide. So now we're looking at early photos of this moat bridge that was originally here at Hollyhock House. Of course, the fireplaces is the most iconic element. Of course, fireplaces always take a center stage in Wright's designs, but here, for a house that was supposed to be situated at the center of an arts complex, it brings an extra degree of drama, bringing together the four classical elements, earth, air, fire, and water together here. And the moat bridge, next slide. This moat would have brought water around the pool. And sadly, when in the 1940s, the house was being used for social functions. And so not necessarily having a moat was particularly conducive to putting folding chairs into the living room. And so this element was filled in that 1940s period. Next slide. Here you can see that the moat was reinstated in the 1970s when the house was to be used as a house museum. Occasionally they would pour water in it for photo shoots. And I love this image of Bob Vila on a 1997 visit here at a Hollyhock House, splashing around in the pool. He was touching furniture, doing all sorts of things that we don't like. But stagnant water inserted here just didn't make a lot of sense. Next slide. Our visitors did oftentimes ask how the fire would be tended to because this element was missing. And so when we had the opportunity and we were working with KC Restoration, a local firm, on doing some exterior concrete work, I jumped at the opportunity to reintegrate this feature into one of the most iconic elements of the house. So there was a lot of concrete sampling. There was some demo in that a tile edge was built out and we had to remove that to restore the original proportions of the bridge. So there was carefully carving back and trying to keep the dust mitigation to a minimum to figure out that exact depth of that moat bridge. And then also mock-ups of what that bridge should look like, and figuring out exactly how big the kind of square pipe hole should be that's set right in that moat. I think I've got one more slide. And this is just, before and after. And I'm excited to walk through these two elements and share them in person now. If you want to toggle back to me, I'll switch my camera around. Apologies for a second. Okay. Okay, so here we are in the loggia, and here is that sconce reinstated. And what is so exciting is it really bears distinct marks of Schindler's designs. I think that the kind of wood construction varies quite a bit from some of the elements we see elsewhere here at Hollyhock House, but he's doing so within the same design vocabulary. Similarly, he added escutcheons to the front door of the house, but still working within the same Wright vocabulary. And this is another variation on the hollyhock motif, hollyhock being Aline Barnstall's favorite flower. And so really making sure that it was part of the total design for Hollyhock House. Yeah, you can see the economy of materials. And the really beautiful detailing, just using simple boards to create another variation on the hollyhock that adds a little more Schindler to our interpretation. Here's a view of our loggia or in our patio. I'm just going to move us here into the living room. So looking here at the fireplace, you can appreciate the really remarkable design that Wright created here. Art glass overhead, earth, air, fire, and water coming together. And so to restore this feature more completely was an exciting opportunity. And from this vantage, you can see the tile edge that was added when the pool was re-excavated in the 1970s. We were not so bold as to pull that edge back, understanding that it likely covers up some damage that may have happened. So in restoring the moat bridge, we did so to the original proportion so that this element is true and if to the original design. And if we do ever have the opportunity to do further work, it will still be a component that's accurate to the design detail. And that small square hole would have tied into a vent pipe that fed this pool feature. So this moat here was part of a larger water feature with water running throughout the site. I think a really romantic embrace of indoor-outdoor living fitting for California. So I'm excited and glad for the opportunity to share these recent restoration projects with you all. I think that it's been wonderful to see a major transformation like Residence A, but it's been so nice to be able to enhance our interpretation of key design features and players involved in Hollyhock House as well. So if anybody has any questions, and Anna.
Yeah, Abby, that was really incredible. Just what a treat to see the transformation at Residence A, and then to dig into those specific projects at Hollyhock House. There are just a couple questions. First, can you just speak briefly to how the material choices may compare between Residence A and Hollyhock? For example, was the art stone at Residence A the same as that at Hollyhock?
It's a different stone design for Residence A. There wasn't a specific flower assigned to the one at that structure. The composition of the stones is quite similar. They had different general contractors, but I think that the art stone was being produced by the same manufacturer in South Pasadena for Hollyhock. The colors are different, and so it did require a whole set of its own materials analysis. The plaster was a more even toned color, and I think that there is a differentiation between a main house and a guest house in the kind of cost and the complexity of the finishes. So
that's a good point. Yeah. And then regarding the moat, can you explain if you know exactly how it would have been filled? And when it was redug?
Yeah, so the moat was part of this larger water feature that was originally designed by Wright. The detailing isn't entirely clear, and because of the kind of totality of the major renovations that have happened over time, the piping that would have fed the moat from the water feature with the water running through the center patio colonnade is no longer extant. So it's I understand that the feature failed very early in the house's history, and the pool, even on the east facade barn stall, filled in with flowers after some pretty heavy rains the first year that the house was completed. So I think when we look at photos of Barnsall's period in the house, there was a bellows sitting in that fireplace mode, and there was never really water around it. But I think it is maybe a very romantic idea of what is possible in California, whether without maybe a firm grasp on water realities of our region.
All right. Well, Abby, this has been, a real treat. And as always, our Wright Virtual Visits program, it exists both as an educational tool and to build awareness around Wright's contributions to the history of architecture and design. And I know you all out there are well aware by now that our hope is that many of you watching will venture out and actually visit publicly accessible sites like Hollyhock House in person. So Abby, could you give us a little info on your tour program?
Yeah, we've been reopened for self-guide tours. They run Thursday to Saturday. We encourage people to purchase their tickets in advance, but we have our visitor center, which is in our historic garage, once again reopened, and we sell tickets for walk-up visitors. And it's wonderful. People come from all around just to enjoy the lawns here. We've got amazing views of the city from our hilltop location. So
great. And
hope
Scott,
people visit in person.
Can you put that website up on the screen? Great. And this is where you go to find information about the self-guided tours. What's your photography policy, Abby?
We allow photos in the house once. That's been a recent change, and it's been wonderful to see the house through our visitors' eyes as well. Yeah. I should also mention from our hollyhock.org, hollyhockhouse.org website, we also have links to our YouTube page, which has other restoration videos that were done at the completion of the 2021 Phase 1 work at Residence A that are really exciting. And I think Eric might be able to drop some direct links to our previous Wright virtual visits and our in-focus tours that we did highlighting Phase 1 work on Residence A as well. So we've been trying to get a fair number of digital resources out there for those that can't visit in person.
Wonderful. Yes. Thanks for mentioning that. I mean, it's really been, it's been incredible to see the progress even in the last couple years. I think it was 2 years ago now that I was there. Is that possible? Just incredible transformation. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Abby. Thank you everyone out there for tuning in today. And we look forward to seeing you next month. I can't believe I'm talking about October already. The next episode is on October 26th, and this is a special one as we'll be visiting the Guggenheim in New York. This will be a Wright Virtual Visits first, so we're really excited about it. Same time, same place on October 26th. And there are recordings of all past episodes ready to view at savewright.org. So take care, and we'll see you next month.